everybody, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Spokane, Washington. I come to you live every Wednesday night with 3 new projects that I've created, and I show you how I made them. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you for coming back. I enjoy the little community that we're building here, and I hope you're enjoying that too. So give everybody a few seconds to get on here before we jump into things. I don't really have anything eventful to tell you about. It's, you know, there's been all the wildfires around here lately, and I am safe. It's outside of town in an area called Medical Lake, so it would have to actually come all the way through town to get to me, and I don't see that happening. But my heart really does go out to those who are affected by the fires and displaced, and you know, or even just had a big scary scare. That's not fun. So again, my heart goes out to those who are affected, and I hope you guys are all doing okay. So, okay, let's go ahead and we're gonna get the camera turned around. Before I do that, I wanna remind you to participate in conversation because, you know, all the conversation and things like that, I love it. It's how we're building our community, but also that type of activity is what tells the algorithm that there's some stuff going on here that others might want to see, and they help to it helps them put the video out there to more people. So it helps me a lot. It also helps me if you share the video. You never know who in your feed is going to enjoy this kind of thing. But back to communicating or talking, sharing, you know, whatever you want to call it, leaving comments. You know, if you're kind of shy and you just like to sit back and be a wallflower, that's okay. Just make sure you say hello, tell me where you're from. I love to hear where everybody's from. And when you participate in the conversation, even if it's just that quick little hello, your name goes into a drawing that I award the following week. Now I want to be able to include people who aren't watching this live, and so the same applies. I don't go in and draw the name until a couple of hours before I go live the next week. So if you're watching this on replay, make sure you still leave a comment because your name will get included in the drawing. So let me check. I want to get this up on my computer monitor so that I can see your comments as they go. It looks like my computer is working, so good. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got you guys up. It looks like we've got a few people who've joined us so far. So hello to Marcia and John, Joyce, Kathy. Oh, thank you, Marcia, for sharing. Oh my goodness, 104. Oh, it's hot where you are, Marcia. It was a little over 100 here last week. It's cooled off again this week. I mean, I'm really fortunate. We only get this kind of weather for a few weeks out of the year, if that. So as much as I don't like it, I don't complain too much about it. Hey, Nancy and Marcia. Another Marcia shared. Thank you. Oh, she's got me on the big screen. Good, good, good. Oh, Marcia says to remind Marcia Long because she forgot about tonight. So, Marcia, thank you for reminding Marcia. Let's see. Oh, I'm so glad that you asked about Paper Pumpkin, Marcia, because what I want to tell you is this weekend would normally be the weekend when I do Paper Pumpkin. If you're unfamiliar, I do a video like this every once a month on a Saturday with the Paper Pumpkin kit from that month, and I give alternate ideas to use for the kit. Anyway, this weekend would be my normal week to do that, yes. However, I'm going out of town. I get to see my daughter. So I will be doing it the following weekend. Hang on, let me take a look here. I can tell you the exact date. That would be the 2nd of August. So I'll be putting up a reminder on my social media pages to let you know, but it will be August 2nd. That's a Saturday at 6 p.m. Same place, or yeah, same place here on Facebook on Stamp Happenings. So great question, thank you. Okay, let's see here. Got this all up on the big screen. So let's get this turned around. Let's award our winner for this week's drawing, and then we'll get going on our cards for this week. I've got 3 techniques for you. I thought I'd do something a little different and really focus on techniques this week. They're all simple techniques. So hopefully that'll give you some fresh ideas. Hold on while I turn this around. Okay, so let's get rid of my keyboard. And let's see, it looks like everything's just a tiny bit crooked, so let's fix that. Okay, that's pretty close to straight. We'll call that good. So let's get going. Okay, got all my little supplies here. And let's see, this week's winner will be receiving another packet with dainty flowers, some gems, some ribbon. And this week's winner is Susan Lessaway. I hope I said your name right, Susan. I don't have your mailing address, so if you want to email me at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or you can send me a private message here on Facebook, then you can give me your address and I can put this in the mail to you. So congratulations to Susan. Okay, let's see. Hey, Kathy, welcome. Thank you, Marcia. I don't get to see my daughter all that often, and so it's kind of nice that I'm going to get to see her this weekend over in Seattle. Okay, so let's see here. Our first card, we're going to use the inked and tiled stamps. You know I love this stamp set. And the Something Fancy dies. This is a great set to have because you can make labels of all shapes and sizes, some that nest in one another. These can be like the little holes at the end of your label that you put ribbon through, or you can do it just for decor. So this is a really nice little set. All right, and the card we're going to make is using the, let's see what it's called here. Inked Botanicals Designer Series paper. Very simple card, and it's called the I've heard this called the resist method, where what we're going to do is we're going to stamp and we're going to emboss with clear embossing powder, and then we're going to go over it with ink. Where it's been embossed, that resists the ink. And let me show you one thing I forgot to do. We'll be sure to do this on one we make together. But see how it's wiping? There's just a little bit of that Calypso coral on that white. And you go like this and it rubs it right off. And it makes it nice and vibrant and white. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll show you, this is the inside of the card. And our corresponding coordinating envelope. Okay, so first of all, let's do the envelope itself. Hold on just a second. It's nice that it's finally cooled off enough that I can just leave my door open during my life so that Lucy can come and go as she pleases. It's been so hot that you don't dare do that because it just lets all that heat in. So it's kind of nice. Like I said, I won't complain about the hot weather because we don't really get it for that much out of the year. I'm glad when we're rid of it, though. I will say that. By the way, I want to thank all of you for your kind comments to Jackson. Hey, Judy. All of your kind comments to Jackson when he stamped with us last week. He really gets a kick out of it, and so do I. I love that it's something we can do together. You know, is it something he's going to do a lot of and totally get into stamping? Oh, no, probably not. But he does have fun while he's doing it, and I have fun, you know, helping him with it or doing it with him. So, you know, when your kid is grown, there's so much less you can do together. You know, they're busy. They have interests of their own and things to do. Now I'm just cutting off the extra here that goes beyond the envelope flap. I'm just going to trim this down. If you cut your envelope, no big deal. But anyway, so it is kind of fun on that rare occasion when we find something like that that is enjoyable for us to both do, and it creates memories. And really, when it comes down to it, isn't that what's important? Okay, let's see. Hey, Teresa. Yes, we do have a lot of smoke here. My parents actually live closer to the fires than I do, and it's pretty bad at their house. They're safe, that's not a concern, but it is close enough that the smoke is really, really bad. Okay, and I saw somebody set up above that their daughter, Marcia, said her daughter lives in the Seattle area. Yeah, my daughter is actually in Renton, so that's where I'm going. Well, and there's an event on Sunday night that I'm going to. Somebody that I follow on TikTok has put out a book and is doing a book tour. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to get to go see this person live. So we're doing that on Sunday night. My daughter's doing it with me. Okay, so this this cardstock is pretty in pink, I think. Pink? That doesn't sound right. Petal pink. There we go. Okay, final answer. Petal pink. It's 11 inches by 4 1/4, which means that I cut at half of a sheet of cardstock lengthwise. Okay, so now what we have is I have this piece for the inside of the card. It's 4 1/4, or it's 4 by 5 1/4. Let's go ahead and get that piece ready. And I like to put something on the inside of my card just to carry the design all the way through. So usually it's just a little strip of coordinating designer series paper, like what I'm doing right now. Sometimes I'll stamp an image, in the corner. Sometimes I'll even put my sentiment on the inside. I know, look at me being so bold and adventurous as to put the sentiment on the inside instead of the outside. Okay, so I've got this little strip. This was 1/2 inch. The designer series paper is 1/2 inch. And the Calypso Coral behind it is just 5/8 of an inch. And that was Lucy tripping over her dog food bowl. Okay, and now it scared her. That's kind of funny, actually. Okay, so now I'm just going to put a little stripe of glue. Again, a little goes a very, very long way. You don't want to put too much on. And you know what? I will admit it is kind of an acquired feel, how much is too much and how much is enough. So you just kind of got to play with it. So, if you're trying to use the liquid glue and you're getting too much and it's just frustrating, don't give up, because that's what I did at first. I'm like, you know what? I don't get it. I'm not doing this. But then when I decided to really kind of get it figured out, now, as you know, I use it all the time. Okay, so there is the inside of our card. Let's go ahead and glue that in there so that it's one less piece just floating around to get lost. Oh, thanks, Marcia. I enjoy when he does that too. It was fun letting him design his own card this time too. Okay, so there we go. There's the inside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of basic white. We're going to take our Versamark ink and we're going to take our stamp. Now, just to have things at the ready, I'm getting out my clear embossing powder. We do sell a really nice handy tray for embossing where you can pour your embossing powder back into the container from the tray. I don't have one of those, so I just take a piece of paper and I fold it in half. And I'll show you how I use that in just a minute. Versamark ink is a watermark ink, so you don't really see it on very well on white, but if you stamp it on a colored cardstock, it stamps an image just slightly darker than the cardstock itself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm taking this first image, I'm stamping it at an angle there, and then I'm going to ink the second one. I'm doing a total of 3 here. This one is slightly down lower, and it's almost straight up and down. And I know you can't really see it yet because it's clear. You will. the magic will happen. Okay, and last one, this one is kind of at this angle here. All right. Now make sure you put your ink pad away, because if the powder spills or whatever, you get it on your ink pad, you're pretty much going to be buying a new ink pad. Okay. So now I've got that. Hang on just a second. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so now I take my white piece of cardstock that I stamped on and I put it on my paper that I folded in half and then opened back up. You're going to see in a minute why I folded it in half. And now I'm just sprinkling my powder all over it. And I just go like that. I let all the powder kind of fall down the white there. And then I look to see if there's any edges, like sometimes when you get ink on the edge of your stamp and you stamp it on your paper, then what happens here is you get that little line of ink or whatever, but you also get the embossing powder and you don't want that. So I have just these little paintbrushes that I bought, which actually when you buy the embossing tray that I was just talking about, I believe it comes with a few brushes, and then I just take it and lightly brush off what I don't want. But it doesn't look like I have anything on here tonight. Joyce just asked how Goblin is doing. Goblin is our little kitten. She is so sweet. She's adorable. She is definitely acting like a kitten now. Hey, Nell, welcome. She likes to attack like kittens do. She's so much fun. I have a really cute picture that Jackson took of her the other day in the middle of playing, and her tongue is sticking out, so I should post that here on my Facebook page for you guys to see. It's really, really cute. Okay, so I've got all my powder on. Put your lid back on so you don't spill it. And now I'm going to clean my stamp, and I want to show you, Versamark ink is very, very sticky. So it does take a little bit of extra effort to clean your stamp. You know, normally I've got my little chamois in a little plastic tray, and I just, you know, go like this, and it scrubs off my stamp. No big deal. But with the Versamark, you do have to take a little bit of extra time just to get that extra ink off, and it's hard because it's clear, so you don't see it. So it is pretty shiny though, so I just try to make sure I get all the edges and the nooks and crannies, and then I look for shiny bits. If you don't get it all off, is it going to hurt anything? No. So there you go. That's how I clean my stamps when I use Versamark. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the heat embossing tool. It's going to get a little loud, so hold on a minute. I'm going to heat this powder. So let's go ahead and get started. It takes just a moment for it to heat up before you start to see the powder melt. And that's how you know that section is done. When you first put it on there, the powder is really grainy, and you can see that. But as it heats and melts, the pieces become less grainy and they start to become sort of shiny. So that's what you're looking for, is that little shiny bit. And I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get it up a little closer to the screen so you can see it. You may not be able to. Now in real life, you can definitely see it a lot better. So just because you can't see it too terribly well on the screen, don't worry. If you're trying this at home, you're trying it for the first time, you will definitely know, because like I said, it starts to look shiny. And it kind of changes color just a little tiny bit. So you see it happening. Okay, looks like I've got it done. Now another thing that I like to do, because the heat does make your paper buckle a little bit, flip it over and heat it from the other side just for a moment. Helps it to flatten back out. And then we're going to glue it down really well too, so that does make a difference as well. Okay, so we've got that. I've got little bits in my embossing powder. That's not cool. But see, now I can just put my finger over it. It's perfectly dry. It doesn't smear it or spread it or anything like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a blending brush and some Calypso Coral ink. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and ink up the brush and then tap a little bit on your side paper and then just start coming in at it. But you can already see how that embossed image is showing through the ink. It's resisting that ink. It will look even cooler once we take the tissue to it and rub off the extra, because right now there is a little bit of the Calypso Coral sitting on top of that white that showed that embossed section. So the tissue helps just get that off. So I'll probably go over it one more time here. And these brushes, by the way, come in two different sizes. We have big ones and smaller ones for smaller areas. I'll show you a small one here in just a moment. Okay, I think we're good there. Now I'm going to close my ink pad. And now I'm just going to rub over it. See how it's wiping that Calypso Coral right off of that embossed image? And it really makes it stand out. And you don't have to do this on white. You could do it on any color, and whatever color your paper is, that's what's going to show through because you're using clear powder. Okay, so now let's go ahead and glue this down to this piece of Calypso Coral. This is 4 by 5 1/4. So this is just 1/8 of an inch smaller. It's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And my paper is still buckled just a little bit. So, you know, normally I just put adhesive on those 4 corners. I'm going to put a little bit on the ends right here, and that'll just help keep that part down where it's buckled a little bit. So I line this up, trying to get it centered-ish, not perfect, because we strive for ish, not perfection here at Stamp Happenings. Okay, there we go. What do you think? So now we're going to go ahead and we will, we're going to wait to put it on our card though. We'll put it on our card almost last. So the other pieces that I have here, I have a little strip that is 2 inches by 3 1/2 inches of our Designer Series paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a little banner end out of it. I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see where I'm cutting. All you have to do is you cut down the middle part way. Oh, that isn't even the middle. That's pretty bad, Heather. So you're going to cut down the middle like that. And then you come in from the sides. And you just cut from the corner down to the tip of your cut that you put in the middle. And now you have a fun little banner. Easy, easy. We do have a punch that will punch banner tips for you, and you can use strips that are 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, or 1 inch wide. But if you're looking for something bigger than 1 inch, like in this case, then you're going to want to just do that little trick that I just showed you. So now let's go ahead. Oops, we're going to wait to glue this on. I don't know why I'm in such a hurry. Okay, so now we're going to take our Calypso Coral ink. We're going to stamp our sentiment. I chose to make this one Happy Birthday. If you use this particular label or set of labels, it's pretty good size. So you could get a decent sized message on there if you wanted to. I'm just doing Happy Birthday, but I could have gone to another stamp set and gotten a bigger Happy Birthday message. I just chose to stick with this stamp set. But, mix and match your stamp sets. There's no law saying you have to stick to the stamps that are in the set. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this banner onto that one so they nest. And you just put it in their center dish. It's not playing nice. Now why I like to use the liquid glue is because it doesn't set right away, which allowed me to kind of pull that up, move it a little bit, adjust it, whatever you need to do. So now let's go ahead and glue this piece down. And you're going to take it so that this end is just a little bit away from that point in your banner, and the other end is going off the edge because we're going to trim that off. I'm just trying to make sure that it's centered vertically, like that. And now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut off this extra bit right here. Just like so. And now let's go ahead and glue this piece down. I really could be using either kind of adhesive for this step, and I don't know why I keep going back and forth. There really isn't one that's better than the other. Now there are some uses where one might be better to use than the other, but in this case, there's not. Okay, so I'm lining this up with the edge of the piece that I colored with my blending brush. And I'm putting it right here. Make sure that it is not centered, but straight-ish. Okay, and now I have this little bit of twine. I want to show you the pack this twine came in. Came in a 5-pack. These are all of this year's new in colors, and you get all 5 of them. And I can't remember how much it is. I want to say like $8 or something. So you get a lot of twine, and you have 5 colors there. And the thing is, these colors, while they're not exactly a match, they work well. For example, this one I'm using right now is copper clay, but it worked well with the Calypso Coral. So that's why I'm using it. I just tied my knot weird. I have to redo it. Okay, so let's try this again. There we go. Now it is thicker twine, so you do kind of got to play with it to get it to lay right. And what I have found is that if I don't get it quite right, then my knot in the center is really loose, and then the bow comes untied really easily if it's too loose. So you just kind of got to experiment with how do I make that nice and tight. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go ahead and we'll trim it a little bit here, but I'll trim it for size once it's actually on the card. So I'm just laying this down on one of my mini glue dots. So the knot is laying right on the glue dot, and then I push it down so it really gets stuck on there, and then I peel it right off. And I can put my bow right there. And see, I've got these little guys sticking out. They look like little Pippi Longstocking braids, especially in this color. So I'm just going to trim them down just a little bit. A little tip, what I found for the right length is typically you want your, unless you're wanting long I can't even think of what they're called, but the little strands that hang down, unless you're wanting long tails. But if you're wanting just normal ones, a good rule of thumb is you want it to go right about to the edge of your loop. So these are a little bit longer than that, but right about to the edge of the loop works really well with these. So now let's go ahead and put this on our card, and then this card is ready for some embellishments, and it's done. So you can see that technique was super easy to do, and the card was pretty quick doing that. You can create some really amazing backgrounds. Okay, let's see, liner up here. I think that looks good. Okay, let's see, my computer's doing something kind of weird. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's put a few embellishments on here. I've got the iridescent pastel gems, and they come in 3 different colors. And I am going to use these ones on this side that are kind of orangey red. Take my take your pick tool. I'm going to use both sizes, the large and the small. Whoop, where'd it go? It's hiding. There we go. Let's put this down here. And then I've got a few little ones that I want to put on there that we're just going to put right on our tag. It just helps fill up the tag a little bit so it's not quite so stark. And there we go. That card is done. What do you guys think? Put those back in. There we go. So card number 1 is done. Let's clean up the mess and we'll get going on card number 2. All right, now this technique, you guys have seen me use this technique before. Actually, let me introduce you to the stamps first. We're going to be using, thanks everybody. We're going to be using the Cheerful Daisies dies and Cheerful Daisies stamps with its coordinating dies. Remember, when you buy your stamps and dies as a bundle, you get a 10% savings. All right, so this is the card we're going to make. Now, the technique that I have used before is called the faux silk technique. And just to jar your memory just a little bit, what I've done is I took like a really vibrant designer series paper, and then I laid crinkled up white tissue paper over it. That vibrant image shows through the tissue paper, but it's all kind of crinkly and stuff, so it ends up looking like raw silk. It's really, really pretty. So this, I'm trying to get it close. You see, you can kind of see how it's got that texture right there from doing the same thing. What I did this time, though, is I used black paper and black tissue, and I just wanted that silk look without the images of a designer series paper. So I thought, I'll try it out and see how it turns out. And I actually really like it because you get that solid color background, but you still have some texture in there. And so I'm going to show you how I did that. And here's our coordinating envelope and the inside of the card. Okay. So first we will stamp our envelope. Let's do all of our stamping right off the bat here. Uh-oh, it appears I am missing a piece of my adhesive paper, but that's okay, I can cut more adhesive paper. But let's do our stamping first. And for this, the colors I'm going to use Melon Mambo, Daffodil Delight, and my Memento Tuxedo Black. So this piece right here, this is going to be the inside of the card. So it is 4 by 5 1/4. And I just want to stamp a little daisy right in the corner there. Thanks, Susan. Okay, so ink up my stamp, and then I'm just going to stamp it in this lower corner, like that. And then I also want to do this on this piece of scrap paper. We're going to cut these out with my cutting and embossing machine. So let's go ahead and stamp that right now. And then we're going to stamp a bunch of these on the envelope flap. So I'm sticking scrap paper underneath it so I don't stamp all over the envelope itself. Eek. Okay. Just getting these little corner edges there. Okay, so now I'm going to clean off my stamp. And just so you know, if you've never stamped before with our photopolymer stamps, that's these ones that are clear. When you use a red-ish color, like pink, red, orange, you know, whatever, it does stain the stamp. Don't worry about that. It doesn't impact future stamping. It's not like the color stays on there and transfers to future images. It just stains the stamp. It's not a big deal. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, where's that little stamp? This little stamp is the center of the flowers. So I'm going to stamp one right there, there, and I'm going to hold on to that for a minute. Now I'm going to stamp this flower center and get the little piece that's going to go on the inside of the card. There we go. Okay, put the ink away. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this outline stamp. Now, these stamps, I think they look great without the outline. In fact, I like them better without the outline. This is what they look like with it. And the reason I chose to do the outline on this one is I wanted to pull a little bit more of that black out so that because it was my primary color. So I did add it. So in this case, I like it. But overall, if you don't like that look, you can go without the detail stamp like that. Okay, so now let's ink it up. Whoops. I feel like I have a big glob right there in the middle. Okay, and now lining it up. Now the trick is figuring out, you know, what order all the little petals are in so that you line this up right. There we go. There. Okay, so now let's get these other ones. Oh, poo, you know what I did? I stamped the center of my flower right there, and what I really meant to do was stamp one, a separate one that I'm going to cut out with the dies. So let's do that really quick. Just another one right there. And there is no black outline for that one. Now let's do the envelope. I thought about not doing the envelope, but then I decided, no, I want the inside and the outside to match. So, and it doesn't add that much time to do the outline. I was just being lazy. Oh, thanks, Joyce. I do really like Melon Mambo. I like this particular shade of pink. Okay, this one is going to be off. It's not matched up quite right, but that's okay. Okay, get this one lined up. Now that is one nice thing about these photopolymer stamps. You can see where you're stamping, so you can line things up just so. This one's gonna be off a little bit too, I can already tell. And we'll get this last one where I just got this tiny little edge of the stamp. I think those are the ones I did. There. So I'm just cleaning off the stamp really quick. When there's fine lines like this, then I do sometimes take it by hand and do what you see me doing now, just to get in all those little nooks and crannies. If you don't want to do this, our Stamp and Scrub works great for this. Okay. We do have one more thing we're going to stamp, but we'll wait till after we cut it out with the embossing machine. So let's look into doing that cutting right now. What we're going to do is find the dies. They're right over here. And we've got this big one. And these dies are great because you can do the outer edge, you can do the inside of the flowers. There's so much you can do with them. There's lots of dies there, lots of fun stuff. Okay, so I'm getting my Post-it tape. I'm going to get this guy in place. Got to kind of figure out which way it goes. There we go. And get it lined up just so. You don't have to tape it down, but I do like to tape it down with my Post-it tape just because, especially with an image like this where you're trying to cut a stamped image versus just a general shape, then it does hold your die in place so that you don't have to worry about whether or not it moves on you. Okay, so then I've got the die for that little yellow bit in the center. So let's get that to line up right. That looks good. Like that. And then I'm also going to cut out the little tag. So I'm just going to put it right there. There we go. Okay, now this piece is a little bit big for my mini machine, so I'm going to go ahead and bring over the big one. Hold on. Okay, gosh, the dust in this house is just awful. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces that we just stuck down with the Post-it tape, and I'm going to feed them through. My cousin and I were just talking yesterday about how nice our cutting and embossing machine is. She said she has a Cricut, and she said it's easy enough to use, but it's complicated at the same time. And that one of the nice things about this is how, yeah, it's a machine, it's rollers and wheels, but it's very, very manual. So it's not quite as complicated as figuring out something electronic. Okay, so now we have all our little pieces. We can put the dies back. Do be careful when you tear off your Post-it tape. It is designed to just come right off and not stick, but sometimes if it gets pushed really hard going through the feeds on that cutter, then you end up with it sticking, and it could tear the paper. So you just want to be careful. I've had it happen. It doesn't happen very often, but I choose to be careful every time because you never know when it's going to happen. Okay, so now this is off center a little bit, but I'm gonna leave it. And finally, we've got our little band. That's not really a banner, is it? More of a frame, like that. Okay, now let's put this away. Okay, and one last bit of stamping. We'll do that right now before we start assembling our card. Okay, and let me find my message, my sentiment, and it says, wishing you the brightest birthday. So I'm going to do my best to kind of try to get it centered in there. Push it down, and then straight up. There we go. And put the ink away. So now we have our card base. This is a standard card base. It's 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, scored right in the middle at 4 1/4. Oh, that's smart, Joyce. Joyce says to tie a dusting rag to Lucy's tail and let her go to town and dust the house. I should. Okay. I'm using a bone folder to make sure I get a nice crisp edge there. Let's go ahead and glue our inside piece in. I agree, this is a very pretty stamp set. I really like it. There we go. I got something on my white paper. I don't know what that is. I'm a little off center, so I'm going to slowly peel this back up so that I can lay it back down. Hopefully get it a little better centered this time, but again, we're going for centered-ish. We're not going for perfection. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now let's set these pieces aside where I can't lose them. Well, let's go ahead and glue this one down. Now I'm gluing this flat. I'm not using a dimensional, and that may cause you to wonder, why would I do that? Instead of just having the stamped image there. Well, it does still give it a little bit of a 3D effect. It pops it out just a little bit, and I do like that. So that's why I do that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of black. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's bigger than what we're going to need, but I have found that when I'm doing this technique, I prefer to make it a little big and then trim it down. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do, this is part of our adhesive sheets. You get 6 sheets of 6 inch by 12 inch adhesive sheet. They really do last a long time because you're never using that much, and you don't really use it all that often anyway, so it is a good purchase. Now one piece comes off. The sticky is on this piece I just pulled off, and I'm going to line it up. I'm giving myself a little bit of a margin there because remember, I did cut it big on purpose. But I'm going to take all 3 of these strips, line them up, run one right next to the other. Just like that. And we're going to do the last one. Okay, it is going off the edge just a little bit. So I'll trim that just so, because it is pretty sticky and I don't want to get sticky stuff everywhere. So I'm just going ahead and trim that little extra bit off. There we go. Okay, get off my finger now. Okay, now what I like to do is take my bone folder and just go over it, over the back of it several times. You're making sure that the adhesive is really stuck to your paper. If the adhesive isn't stuck really, really well, the release paper doesn't come off quite as easily. Okay. Now I have a piece of black tissue paper, and there's a shiny side to your tissue paper and there is a dull side. We're going to want to put the shiny side down. So first what we're going to do is we're going to crinkle this up just like this in a little ball. Then you're going to pull it apart carefully so you don't tear it. Figure out which side is your dull side, which side is your shiny side. We're going to lay it out flat. But I'm not taking all the crinkles out. See, there's still lots and lots of crinkles in there. And now I'm going to take your pick tool, hopefully to just kind of get this started, because it can be a little tricky pulling these adhesive sheets off, because they do really like to stick. There's a good one. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. I accidentally knocked over my little garbage can and I have to clean it up, or Lucy gets the pieces and either eats them or carries them all over the house, or, you know, whatever trouble she can cause. Okay, so again, I'm going to peel off this release tape. Last one. Okay, so now this entire sheet is covered with this sticky stuff. And we're going to take our black piece of tissue and just lay it down over that. And then we're going to start to press it flat. So where you have all those little folds and such, you get the little bumps and raises in your paper. And now I'm going to cut this down to size, and it's going to be matted by this, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So this piece needs to be just 1/8 of an inch smaller at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit of this edge here, since I can't see the edge super well. Okay, and cut off this edge just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now I can see where I'm cutting a little bit better. So I want this to be 3 7/8. By 5 1/8. And there we go. And you can see we've got all those nice little ridges that make it look like raw silk. And I really liked how that looked using the black like that, so that I wasn't getting an image showing through. It was just the texture of the silk. Okay, so now let's go ahead and mount this onto the piece of Melon Mambo. We have this in black and vanilla. It's really pretty. Okay, so tie a little knot here, or tie a little bow. Okay. And now I just want to you know, play with my little ears here, my loops, to make sure that I get them to be about the size that I want them. And then I can trim my ribbon. Just like that. And I'm going to wiggle this around a little bit because I do want that bow to be way over here on the edge. Okay. There. Just like that. And now we're going to take these pieces that we die cut. Oh, you know what I forgot to die cut though? I have a little bit of foliage in there, so hang on just a second. Get the little machine out for this. And I just need a little scrap of the black. This will work. And I'm going to use this die right here. That's just the foliage. And you can't really see it all that well on the card, but when you're looking at the card up close, you can, which just gives it a little bit more texture. You know, once it's all the way through, you can either feed it all the way through, or you can just have it come back. Judy just asked if you could do this faux silk technique on a stamped image. Absolutely. You just want to make sure you're using really bright and vibrant colors that'll show through the tissue. And that, in fact, initially that was my plan for this card, and then it kind of came to me to try the black on black, and I went with that. Okay, there's one little piece of the foliage. I want one more. Sorry about all the wiggling when I do this. Okay, so this last piece here. I don't know why it wasn't just coming out clean like that. I may have to do another one if this tears. I'm ready. There we go. Just needed a little extra TLC, I guess. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so I have my two little pieces of black foliage. I'm going to put this away. And put my die away so I don't lose it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is take my flower and I'm going to kind of lay it here so I get an idea of how I want it, where I'm going to want it to be position wise. And I wanted it to be at a little bit of an angle, a little cockeyed like that. So I'm going to want to put my blackery right through here. So I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive right there like that. Set this back down. I'm not pushing it down because where I just put that adhesive, I don't want it to stick. Okay. But I do want my little piece of foliage to stick to that adhesive that I just laid down. There we go. Just like that. See, so it's just sticking out the back. It looks like reindeer antlers right now. And we're going to put a few dimensionals on here. Here we go. A new fresh sheet. Okay. Okay. And we'll go ahead and take the backs off. I think I want to put one more dimensional right here because I don't want it to be dipping there, sagging. So just like that, tear the back off. Okay, so now we're going to position this back in here how I had it. Just like that. There. And see, up close, you can kind of see that little bit of the leafy stuff. So it just gives a little extra something without really being obnoxious. And now we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of our sentiment. And I'm going to put it up here in this corner. And then finally, we're taking the classic matte dots. And it comes in 3 colors, or 4 colors. You get the white, you get vanilla, you get basic gray, and basic black. And they come in 2 sizes. So I'm going to take one of the bigger ones in black, and I'm going to put it right here. I'm shooting for the middle. Looks like that's good. Right about there. And then I'm going to take 2 small ones to put on either side. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and put this together on the front of our card. Put away some of these loose pieces that try to get me hung up on stuff. Okay. So a little bit of adhesive. Now, a little trick for you. If you tie your ribbon around the piece of paper like this, like I did, right? And you find that it's just a little loose. This is loose. And no matter what you do, it's always loose. And you don't like that. What you can do is come around here, cut right in the middle there, pull it tight, and tape it down. And then that way you don't have this loosey-goosey ribbon. Okay, so now we're going to put this on the card, centered-ish. And there is card number 2. Ta-da! Okay, let's see here. Okay, we'll put this away and let's get card number 3 to work on. Card number 3 used a lot of fun toys. I used the lasting label, which is kind of fun. It has this neat shape to it. And then I also used the translucent florals stamps and the coordinating dies. And then I also used my stylish shapes dies. You know I use these a lot because they're basic shapes. So they do get used on a lot of my cards. Okay, here's the card we're gonna make. And I don't know if this technique even really has a name, but it is a technique for stamping on vellum. Usually you need a special kind of ink to stamp on vellum because it's not porous. And so the ink doesn't just soak back into the paper, absorb into the paper and dry like that. So it'll always be sort of wet on the surface And that means every time you brush your hand over it, it's going to smudge. And you can try heat embossing it, you know, not using any embossing powder, but just heating it to try to help cure it so that it dries. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But what we're going to do is we're going to stamp on the back of the vellum. That way you end up with kind of this muted image, which I really like. But you also don't end up with a smudged image. Oh, good, Marcia, I'm glad you're liking these. Okay, so here's this card, little happy birthday. There's the inside. Let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some stamping. Okay, I have 2 pieces of vellum, and this is Stampin' Up! Vellum. What I like about it, it's not quite as heavy as cardstock, but it is a lot heavier than most vellum you find in the craft stores that's very, very flimsy. This actually, you know, you can see when I go like this, it pretty much holds its shape, where a really thin piece of paper tends to bend just because it's not as heavy duty. So this piece is actually designed for our envelope flap, and this piece is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. That's going to go on the front of our card. So we're going to start by stamping our image and images. So we need Blackberry Bliss, Mossy Meadow, and Berry Burst. Now what I did, because the biggest stamp was that green leafy stamp, I did it first so that I kind of get those placed where I want them, and then I could stamp the smaller flowers around them. So, like this, ink up the stamp. And let's go ahead and put one right there. Oops. And one right about here. There we go. Clean off. Actually, I don't want to clean off my stamp yet. I want to stamp on this piece. It was invisible, so I didn't see it. There we go. So I'm now just cleaning off my stamp. Bear with me here. Okay, let's see. My stamp wasn't getting as clean as I like it, so it took me a minute there. Now what we're going to do is I also have a little white circle. Let's go ahead and stamp that since we have the ink out. And we're stamping Happy Birthday. And I'm stamping it about halfway horizontally, but vertically, no, I'm going the other way. Horizontally, it's halfway. Vertically, it's going to be off to the right a little bit. There we go, just like that. Okay, now we can put our Mossy Meadow ink away. And let's get out the Berry Burst. And the stamp I want to use for that is this pretty one right here. I love this stamp set. I think it's so gorgeous. I set this aside. And now I'm just going to start stamping a few flowers in places. If it overlaps my little green leaves, that's okay. Scoot this out of the way. Now be careful because you don't want, oh no, look at this. I stamped onto my vellum there. Let's see if I can line it up. I don't know if I can. No, it's going to make it upside down. Gosh darn it. Hang on, I'm going to cut another piece. that's the problem with see-through paper. You don't necessarily notice that you have it there. Okay, so I want this to be 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. There we go. Now what I was starting to say is that you do want to be careful when you're moving the pieces around because you don't want to touch where there's ink, because remember, it's going to smudge. So let's get the mossy meadow back out here. Okay. There we go. You have to go all through that to clean that stamp again. That stamp is kind of a little bit of a pain to clean. And I'm just going around the edges, making sure I get all that, and then over the top. Okay. And I want to show you a little trick here on vellum. See where I got the edge of the stamp? We've talked about that before. We talked about it earlier tonight, in fact. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of tissue. I'm going to get it wet. And then you can just kind of go over it. It'll erase it. It'll pull it off. Or at least make it light enough that it's not as noticeable. If I had done it right away, I might have been able to get it off a little bit better, but that's okay. There. Okay. Now let's get some of these flowers on here. There. So clean off that stamp. And now we're going to put away the Berry Burst ink. We're going to get out the Blackberry Bliss. And we're going to stamp a few more flowers, just kind of randomly put them in there. Clean off the stamp. Okay, and oh, I forgot to do it. I keep doing that. I cleaned off my stamp and I still got to do this other section. Figure out where I put my stamp that I just used. There it is. Okay. There. Okay, and now we'll put this away. And we're going to set these aside for the moment. Let's do the envelope first. So we've got our envelope, and then I have a strip of the adhesive paper, just like I used on the last card, okay? Now, we're also going to want to put down our little scrap paper, just because we want to make sure that it doesn't get stuck on the envelope. This is this side sticking up is the side that we stamped on, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our adhesive. Be very, very careful as you're laying it down, because if you drag it at all or you put your finger on it, you're going to smudge it. So be very, very careful. And both the vellum strip and my adhesive paper, I cut strips that were 2.5 inches by 6 inches. Oh good, Judy's gonna be trying the technique tomorrow. Okay, so now I'm taking my bone folder and I'm just going over and rubbing it in really, really well. But see, because the ink is now on the back side of my vellum, then it doesn't smudge, nothing happens. I'm just making sure that my adhesive is pressed firmly into my paper before I try to take the release tape off. Okay, and now oh. And it may pull some of your ink up like it's doing in this case. That's okay. What it does is it smudges your image just a little bit, but that actually kind of softens the look anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. It's not like it makes a mess when it smudges. Now getting this piece off is going to be a little trickier because I don't want to get my fingers in the adhesive or any of that ink, because it still could smear with my fingers. Okay, now we're going to take our envelope here. If you've got a silicone mat, ooh, that'll work too. The silicone mat is nice because adhesive doesn't stick to it. So you can go like that. And then I'm going to line this up with the top of my envelope. You don't have a lot of wiggle room like you do with your when you use the liquid glue, so do be careful. Okay, so it's pressed in there really nice, and now we can just cut the extra off. Now I suppose I could have trimmed this down. Well, no, I was going to say before I pulled the release paper off, but I couldn't. It wouldn't have stuck if I had done that. So never mind. Okay, let's see here. There. Isn't that beautiful? That nice soft image right there. Okay, let's throw away the scraps. And let's do this piece now. So now for this, we're going to take, we've got more of the adhesive. I have another piece of basic white, which is 4 1/4. I'm sorry, it's 4 by 5 1/4. And it is just 1/8 of an inch bigger than this piece here, because it's also going to serve as our mat. So let's go ahead and lay down these strips. Again, be very, very careful. Okay, and the last one. There we go. And now we're going to take the bone folder and just go over it like this. We're making sure that the adhesive is stuck into our paper really, really well. Looks like I do have a little smudge in there, but you know what, it'll probably get covered up anyway, so it probably doesn't even matter. And you know what? My vellum is the same size as my white piece, because I didn't cut it down, which I should have cut it down, but we can work around that. I think maybe I made it big just to be on the safe side and then thought we'll cut it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this down to be 3 7/8. By 5 1/8. You know what? That might be what size this is. And that might be my no, this is, there we go. This is a little bit kind of jaggedy, so I just want to straighten it out. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now what I should have been able to do is actually when I laid this down, the vellum piece down on the white, I could have just laid it down on my mat and stuck it, and then I would have had the mat built in. I don't know what I was thinking, but then I cut the pieces of paper and it works out okay this way. So I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm going to glue this down onto this piece right here that is 4 by 5 1/4. Whoops, we want to take this off, don't we? So we're going to use the take your pick tool to lift up an edge. There we go. Okay, you know what? I don't know what I was thinking. All of that weird chaos that I just had about my white not being the right size and blah, 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 blah. I thought it was on a piece of white because the back was still on it. So this piece, my piece of vellum, is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. We stamped on it, we put the adhesive on it. Now I have a piece of white that is 4 by 5 1/4. It's 1/8 of an inch bigger. We're gonna lay it down on here. You do wanna be careful when you lay it down because it's gonna stick. There we go, there. And we're able to do exactly what I was trying to do in the first place. We stuck the piece of vellum directly onto our piece of white, but the white is slightly bigger, so we have a little bit of a mat. Got the inside here. What did I do with the inside of the card? Oh yeah. Oh, got this other one, this one that's so hard to clean that we got to do it again. I guess I could have done one of the other ones. But then I would have had to come up with something new to complain about. So I'm just going to put that right in the corner like so. Clean off my stamp. Okay. Let's go ahead. Well, let's put the ink away before I do something dangerous. And let's glue this to the inside of our card. Our card base is a standard card base. It's a half of a sheet of cardstock. It's 8 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches, scored right down the middle at 4 1/4. Take my bone folder, get a nice sharp edge there. We're going to glue this to the inside of our card. And then we've got this piece right here. Now first, we're going to take some ribbon. I want to show you how I did this ribbon. I actually did some last night. I cut way too much, so I just used the remnants from last night, or I would have done this and shown you what I did. But I used this ribbon right here, this pink, and it's got the little silver stitches in it, and then I colored over it with my light berry burst. Did I use my light berry burst? No, I did not. I used my dark, the dark blackberry bliss, and changed the color of my ribbon. So now what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this around like so. And then take a little bit of my tear and tape, and we're just going to we're going to tape the ribbon in place. Make sure my ribbon is straightish. There we go. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I have this little punch right here that I cut with the Blackberry Bliss. And I have the little circle that we stamped Happy Birthday on. I got a little bit of a edge there, and somewhere here's my sand eraser that I could use to get that off, but I don't know where my sand eraser is right now. Sand eraser is not a product that Stampin' Up! Sells, but you can get them on Amazon for a couple bucks. They're a very gritty eraser, and so when you make little lines like that, where it's the edge of your stamp, where it's not super dark, you can erase it right off. It's really nice. Okay, so now I just I glued down my circle right over the center of this label. So the Blackberry Bliss is sticking out both sides. And now I'm going to take my dimensionals. We're going to glue or stick it down. Take off the backs. And I want it to go right about here. Just make sure I'm on screen, right? In the frame. Get it straightish. It's a little bit crooked. So lift it up, straighten it out. Okay. Now we're going to let that go for a minute. Now I'm going to take my dark Blackberry Bliss and my light Berry Burst. And what I'm going to do is I'm just coloring on my vellum. Probably enough with that one. And because these are alcohol markers, they do dry pretty quickly. Now I'm going to take my dark Blackberry Bliss. I'm going to do the same thing kind of on this end. Okay. Just trying to let it dry just a little bit more. If you wanted to give it a little more time, you could do that at the very beginning, which is probably what I should have done, but did not. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to got my Post-it tape here. And get my dies. And I'm going to take these ones to make these small flowers. Okay, so let's see, we'll start with this one. Whoops, got to put it right side down. I'm putting these as close as I can because I want to make sure I have enough room to do 2 more in this color. And I'm going to do 2 in one color and 1 in the other. When they're on the card, I notice they don't look that different in color, so maybe switch up your colors if it's really important to you that they're different. So I'm going to peel these off. These are my little flower pieces right here. So there's one flower. And let's do another one here. Ooh, we're running long tonight. Okay, we're just about done. If you are enjoying what we're doing tonight, if you're having fun, you like what you're seeing, if you could give me some hearts, some thumbs up, all that good stuff, it makes me feel really good, but also it helps with the algorithm telling the Facebook and the YouTubes, hey, put this out there, more people like it. So that helps me a lot. And of course, keep commenting. Okay, now we're going to do one more set of these flowers. This one in the other color. And as I mentioned, our new September through December mini catalog is coming out at the beginning of September. So if you don't have a demonstrator that you are already working with and you would like to get your hot little hands on a copy of that catalog, then just send me an email at stamphappenings@gmail.com or send me a private message here on Facebook. Let me know your address. Let me know that you would like one, and I would be happy to mail one to you. Okay, so there's our third flower. And I'm putting these back. These little guys are so small, they get lost so easily. Okay. Oops. There we go. Oh, there's my other flower. Now we're just doing a little bit of piecing it all together, and then we're done. So let's go ahead and build our flowers really quick. What you're going to do is you're going to take glue dots, and oh, this one has a hair in it. That's kind of funny. Okay, so you're going to take one of these little flower pieces. You're going to put it directly over that little glue dot. So the center of the glue dot is, so the glue dot is in the center of your flower. And then you're just going to put your two flower pieces together. Okay. And then what you're going to do is take your bone folder and you're going to do this upside down. So the color side you colored on, you'll be able to tell because it's just a little bit darker. You want that down, and then you're just going like this very gently, kind of like when you curl ribbon, but you don't do it as gently when you're curling ribbon. Okay, this is curling the edges of the flowers so that they sort of stand up a little bit. See, like that. So let's make the other two flowers. So I'm putting the flower on top of the glue dot, so the glue dot is right in the center of the flower. Then I'm lining these two up like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and curl the edges of my flower. You want to be doing that gently. Make sure you're not doing it too hard because you could tear your flower. Also, I want to remind you that if there is something in particular you want to see or learn, a specific technique, a tool, a stamp set, whatever, make sure you let me know. Send me a message and let me know. It doesn't work as well to tell me, hey, thanks, Mary, to tell me here on the live because in 5 minutes I will have forgotten. But if you send me an email, I'll remember, or send me a private message. And if there's something that you want to see, I will definitely try to accommodate that. It may not be right away. I may have to buy the tools or whatever, but I would be happy to accommodate. Okay, so again, now we've got our flowers. We're going to take our glue dots again, center of the flower. Putting it right there. I think maybe I'll put another glue dot under there just to keep it in place. There we go. And what I'm doing is hard to tell, but they're the two different colors of flowers. And so I'm putting the one that is a different color, I'm putting it in the center. I kind of want to have more glue dots on here. Thanks, Nell. Okay. Gosh, they're really sticking to me. Okay, and then we're going to put this last little flower. Little flowers are a little bit janky, but that's okay. So that happy birthday is just kind of peeking out, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this on our card, and then we're going to do the final touch on our flowers. Right there, like so. And I have the Iridescent Pearls Basic Jewels. And they come in 2 different sizes. There's smaller ones and bigger ones, which I guess goes without saying when I say there's 2 sizes, right? And I'm using the bigger ones actually, and I'm gonna put 1 in the center of each flower. There we go. There you go. Card number 2 and the envelope right there. So let me clean up my mess. We'll take a peek at everything that we have here tonight. Oh, you guys are so welcome. Okay, let's see here. Now, if you need some supplies, you want to stock up, all of our kits are on sale this month. You might want to take a peek at that on my website, heathersides.stampitup.net. I would love to earn your business. So if you do go to my website, you do a little shopping, be sure to use this host code if your order is under $150. That's what helps me continue to provide these videos and prizes and things like that for free. If your order is over $150 though, please don't use the host code. You will earn some free rewards from Stampin' Up, and I want to make sure that you are the one who receives them. So make sure you don't use the code if your order is over $150. So we have this one that we just finished. We've got this bright one right here, which feels funny to say about a black card. And then we also have this one here. So the 3 techniques that we used the resist, the embossing resist, we used the faux silk, and we stamped on the back of vellum. So I hope you guys had fun. I love this part of my week. It's my favorite part of my week. I enjoy spending this time with you. I hope you enjoy it too. As always, join me back here next week, same time, same place, 6 p.m. Pacific time at Stamp Happenings on Facebook. And stay tuned for August 2nd when I will be doing the Paper Pumpkin Alternate Ideas video. All right, everybody, have a great week.